Hey, I'm Kev, Mr. Curl, welcome to with Vancouver, Montreal, Montreal and Edmonton falling by the wayside this century. The Honda Indy Toronto remains as the only Canadian and non-US round left on the calendar. The Street Race Round Exhibition Place has become one of the best and most recognisable races in the last 30 years, with Turn 3 becoming one of the most notorious overtaking spots in the series. It has seen many questionable and magnificent manoeuvres during its history, but what else do we know about the last street race that IndyCar will visit this year? Let's find out with some track facts. The Honda Indy Toronto isn't the first time American open wheel racing has visited Ontario, Canada. In 1967 and 68, the Telegram Trophy 200 was held at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville. Bobby Unser took his first Indy victory in a leader cards race in Eagle Ford in the first event, followed by fellow American racing legend Dan Gurney winning in an Oscar Olsen Eagle Westlake Ford. The race then disappeared for 9 years before returning as the Morrison Diamond Indy, with AJ Foyt in his own Coyote Foyt in 1977, then Daniel Gaius in the Interscope racing at Pirelli Cosworth winning. Unfortunately, the event permanently stopped after 1978, but the Morrison Brewery's promotional division, Movistar Sports and Entertainment, had an idea. In spring 1985, they proposed a kart race at Exhibition Place. Toronto City Council approved the race by 2 votes in July 1985, and on the 20th of July 1986, the first Molson Indy Toronto occurred around the 11-turn 1.77 mile 2.824 km long circuit. Bobby Rahal won the 103 lap race, and his true stars Mark Cosworth, head of Penske's Danny Sullivan, and Mario Andretti of Newman Haas Racing. The event quickly became the second biggest sporting event in Canada, behind the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, where 3-day attendance figures normally around 170,000 people. However, it hasn't always been plain sailing. This year marks the 20th anniversary since the tragedy that overshadowed a race won by Adrian Fernandez. On lap 92 of the 95 lap race, Jeff Krosnov was battling fellow lap runners Andre Robredo and Stefan Johansson as they approached the overtaking spot at turn 3. Johansson made a pass on Gilles de Ferran but clipped Krosnov's car alongside him, sending the rookie flying into the catch fencing. The fence couldn't stop him from hitting a tree, which turned the car into a light post located inside the fence. The violence of the crash saw the car broken in half, with the cockpit landing on the other side of the track, while the engine and gearbox went into the turn 3 runoff. It was joined by Johansson, Robredo and Emerson Fittipaldi as the Brazilian veteran got caught up in the aftermath of the accident. Despite officials throwing a red flag and a rapid response to Krosnov getting him transported to Toronto's Reston Hospital, he was pronounced dead by Dr. Steve Overley of CART, saying the 31-year-old was killed on impact with the tree, which was removed after this event. Sadly, his car's right front wheel struck volunteer corner marshal Gary Arvin, killing him instantly. Fellow corner marshal Barbara Johnson was treated and released from hospital. A number of spectators suffered lacerations and other injuries when debris from the wreck flew into the crowds. A decade after the darkest chapter in the Honda Indy Toronto's history, the event was purchased from Movistar Sports and Entertainment by the Champ Car World Series. Its name was changed to the Molson Grand Prix of Toronto, but the following year Molson dropped their title sponsorship, with Steelback Brewery taking over. The multi-year deal wouldn't last long, with the merger of Champ Car and the Indy Racing League in 2008. The race was cancelled, but in May that year, Andretti Green Racing, now Andretti Autosport, purchased the assets of the Grand Prix of Toronto. In July, the race was confirmed for the next year, and since 2009 it has been known as the Honda Indy Toronto, with Honda Canada providing title sponsorship. And Andretti in the Newman Haas became the combination around the streets of Toronto track. Michael Santamayo, father to Marco, won 5 races with the iconic team owned by the late Carl Haas and Paul Newman in this life and the next. It began in 1989 with a win over pole sitter and 1987 winner Emerson Fittipaldi. Then there were back-to-back wins in 1991 and 1992, followed in 1995 and 2000. With further wins in 1994 with Chip Ganassi Racing and Team Green in 2001. Andretti has the most wins in the most populous city in Canada with 7 wins to his name. Newman Haas is the winningest team, has Cristiano Amato in 2002 and Sebastian Bourdais in 2004 brought their total up to 7 wins as well. On the current grid, Sebastian Bourdais, Will Power and Scott Dixon all have 2 wins each. Ryan Hunter-Reay in 2012 and last year's victor Joseph Newgarden both have a win to their name. On the team side, Chip Ganassi has 6 wins from 1994, 1998 with Zach Zanardi, 2009, 2011 with Daryl Franchitti and 2013 with Dixon. Penske has 2 wins with old home favourite Paul Tracy in 1993 and Power in 2010. Andrea Autosport and KVSH Racing in 2012 and 2014 have a win each. However, the winner of the last 2 races has been Ed Carpenter Racing. In 2014, Mike Conway won the second of 2 shortened races on the Sunday thanks to a washout on the Saturday. Last year, the race was moved to June from its traditional July date thanks to Toronto hosting the Pan American and Para Pan American Games. Will Power took the pole from teammates Simon Pagenaud and Juan Pablo Montoya, while Luca Filippi got into the fast 6 in 6th, with teammate Newgarden stuck in the midfield in 11th. With a wet track that would dry out throughout the race, Power held the lead for 31 laps, despite constant pressure from Pagenaud, until he pitted under the first full course caution due to James Drake stalling in turn 5. When Power eventually pitted, Castroneves took over the lead until the second full course caution thanks to debris from Stefano Coletti's car at turn 8. Newgarden emerged in the lead, and after varying pit stop cycles, the American would hold off Filippi to win the race and grab CFH Racing's only 1-2 finish in its only season of existence before becoming Ed Carpenter Racing this year. The track record was set in 1999 by Gilles de Ferran in his Walker Racing Reynard Honda with a 57.143 second lap. However, this year sees some notable changes with the pit lane moved to the left hand side of the front stretch, meaning there have also been changes to the last few corners. With barriers either side instead of curbs, the left-right-left at the end of the lap looks more challenging, with much less room for error. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers negotiate it and the new pit entry and exit. Finally, on the engine manufacturer side, Chevrolet has 10 wins, including 5 in a row from 1987 to 1991, compared to Honda's 8. However, since IndyCar started visiting in 2009, it's been 4-4 between the American and Japanese companies. Chevy have won the last 3 races in 2014 and last year, so could Honda reverse their fortunes north of the border, or will the bow tie make it 10 wins in 11 races so far this season? Of course, Toronto is one of my favourite races on the calendar, and Long Beach is the best street race that IndyCar visits. But who's going to take the flag on Sunday? Will Ed Carpenter Racing make it 3 in a row? Well, it's time for me to turn to Mystic Curve and make some terrible predictions. Let's start with the bionic man of the moment, Joseph Newgarden. Coming off one of the most dominant performances in IndyCar history and the reigning winner here, the 25-year-old has been one of the favourites for this event. His right hand and collarbone doesn't seem to have bothered him too much, and full of confidence around the place where he's won at before, he'll come to race and have a great shot at winning again. His teammate and second place finisher from last year, Luca Filippi, returns at Dale Coyne in place of Gabby Chavez. The Italian has become a sort of Mike Conway road street course specialist, especially around the places where the rules are in your face. He got his first top 10 in IndyCar with Brian Hoyt at Autosport at Houston in 2013, and 4 of his 5 top 10 finishes have come on street courses. Plus his only podium was here, so with Dale Coyne, who have proved handy on the temporary tracks with Conor Daly at St. Pete and Detroit thus far, maybe look for Filippi and American Bacon to fight for a top 10. Of course, there's the usual suspects to keep an eye on. Pagenaud won at Long Beach and took seconds in St. Pete and Detroit earlier this year, so the points leader has been decent on street courses so far. He only has 3 top 10s in 7 races here, but qualified on the front row last year before the strategy went against him in the race. The latter part has rarely been the case this season, no. Will Power's the man in form, having won in Detroit and Road America, then brilliantly grabbing a second place in Iowa. He's closed the gap to Pagenaud to 75 points and is effectively second in the championship with Newgarden out of the Texas race. The former series champion also has a good record in Toronto with 2 wins and a pole from last year. Helio Castroneves is having another mixed season and has a mixed record at Toronto with 6 top 10s in 13 races. However, he won here in Indy Lights back in 1997, took pole in 2000 in kart, and 5 top 10 finishes in the last 6 races around the Canadian streets. Although he can't buy a win at the moment, the Brazilian veteran should be a podium or top 5 prowler. His fellow over 40 club member Juan Pablo Montoya has a poor record in Toronto, with his only top 10 finish in 5 races coming last year with 7th. The Colombian is having a Pagano 2015 style season, sitting only 11th in the championship. Don't expect a pick-me-up this weekend. An arch-rival Chip Ganassi, of course, Scott Dixon has a stellar record around exhibition place with 9 top 10 finishes in 11 races, including his double win in 2013. It's the second half of the season, the reigning series champion is going to be up there. Tony Kanaan has an identical record to his friend Castro Neves. 6 top 10 finishes in 13 races, with 5 in the last 6. The oldest guy in the field has quietly had his strongest season at Chip Ganassi, so expect him to keep up the momentum here. Charlie Kimball is having a similar season to Kanaan and has 4 top 10 finishes in 7 races at Toronto, including his first podium in 2012. That leaves rookie Max Chilton, and it might be a return to the struggle after a brief respite in Iowa. Finally, on the Chevrolet side, Sebastian Bourdais had a mixed year and languishes in 14th in the standings. However, Toronto is one of the KVSH racing drivers' favourite circuits, with his only finish outside of the top 10 in 12 races, being in 2012 with 14th when at Dragon Racing. Since his return to American Open Wheel Racing, 3 of the 4 Frenchman's wins have come at street circuits, including his first victory of KV here back in 2014. Therefore, don't be surprised if he adds another win to the total. For a dark horse pick, there's Spencer Pigot. The reigning Indy Lights champion won both races here last year on his way to the title, and is returning to the cockpit after getting his first top 10 in IndyCar at Road America. The second seat at Egg Come to Racing hasn't been a fun place this year, as his team boss has shown, but that could be about to change in this young American's hands. Honda have had a difficult time penetrating Chevrolet's dominance, despite the big upgrade for the Indy 500 enabling them to win the greatest spectacle in racing. At a race they sponsor, it could be more tough times for the Japanese manufacturers' teams. Apart from the aforementioned Dale Coyne, Graham Rahal is always fighting to be the top Honda driver, such as he did last year with a 9th place finish. The Andretti team had a horrendous visit to their former Iowa palace, but they have been good on street circuits this year, especially in the hands of Ryan Hunter-Reay. Captain America got podiums in St. Pete and Detroit, but his last good race in Toronto was his win in 2012. He should still be the best Andretti driver, maybe ahead of rookie Alexander Rossi, who's Honda's highest placed driver in the championship, in 7th after a solid outing in Iowa. The Indy 500 winner also showed he's perhaps getting to grips with street racing in IndyCar for a top 10 in Detroit. On the other hand, Carlos Munoz has no top 10s in Toronto in 4 races and has been up and down on street courses so far this year. Then there's Marco. His only top 10 of a terrible season came in the second race in Detroit. The 29-year-old has a decent record in Toronto though, with 6 top 10s in 9 races. But he has struggled with the car so badly this year, he will need some good fortune to add to that total this time around. Same could be said for home hero James Hinchcliffe. The Smith-Peterson driver suffers the same home race blues that Rubens Barrichello used to suffer in F1, with the mare only having 2 top 10 finishes in 6 races. It will also be his first time racing aero kits around here after missing last year, so for once, I'm going for Timo Mikhailishkin to do better. The mad Russian drove a stonker to get his second top 5 finish of the year in Iowa. His only other top 10 finish was around the streets of St. Pete. The 29-year-old has shown pace on many occasions this season, but results have been thin on the ground. Maybe that will change in the second half of the year. He needs it too. Just like the AJ Foyt pair of drivers. The good news for Takuma Sato is that he has been strong at street circuits this season. 6th in St. Pete, 5th at Long Beach, and 11th and 10th in Detroit. Penciling a top 10 for the Japanese veteran almost seems a certainty. Plus he has 2 top 10s in the last 2 years, round here. However, this might be the last time you hear Jack Hawksworth's name in a preview. The Englishman has had an abysmal season with AJ Foyt due to technical, team and himself issues. With the veteran IndyCar team, he hasn't looked like the driver he did with Brian Hertel Autosport in his rookie year of 2014, and a yield of no top 10 finishes this season highlights the plight of a driver probably fighting for his IndyCar life. But Toronto represents the best chance for him to get a result. He has a 100% record in the Mazda Road to Indy around this place, and known IndyCar has won top 10 in 3 races from the second race in 2014. The 25-year-old had his joint best race of the year at St. Pete with an 11th place finish, and street circuits are his best track type, as further highlighted with his only IndyCar podium coming in Houston in his rookie season. As much as it's looked hopeless for the Yorkshireman in 2016, I'm hoping Toronto will prove to be an exception. Let me know your much better predictions down below. Joining IndyCar this week is the whole Mazda Road to Indy crew. So after an IR race that was decided by an insane move on the penultimate lap, what can Indy Lights offer in a very different type of circuit?
I'll take something that will be entertaining for 500. Iowa was almost non-stop action. Once it looked like it settled down towards the finish, that traffic came into play and enabled Carlin's Felix Morales to pinch the win from Zach Veach and come to 4th in the championship ahead of his Berardi rival. At the top, Morales' teammate Ed Jones leads by 22 points from Andretti's Dean Stoneman, with Smith Peterson's Santi Urata, I can never say his name, 29 points back. In fact, the top 6, rounded out with Junkers' Kyle Kaiser, is separated by just 46 points, with 30 points handed out for a win. It's an intriguing state of play, with 4 rounds and 7 races to go. Last year, Spencer Pigot won both races from his fellow title challenger Jack Harvey, as Nelson Piquet Jr. stepped in at Carlin with Max Chilton on Le Mans duty with Nissan. The Brazilian took pole for the first race but had a scary accident with RC Anderson and won't be able to get finishes in either race. This weekend we see no one-offs, but Felix Rosenqvist returns at Berardi after missing a couple of rounds due to Mercedes commitments, and Gatgrist is back for his second weekend at Pelfrey after skipping the oval round in Iowa. Out of the 14 drivers taking part in Toronto, 7 have won races, 9 have been on the podium, and all have finished at least 7th this season. Therefore, it could be close in the 2 races this weekend. In the only street races so far at St. Pete, Berardi were strong, winning with Rosenqvist in the second race, while Veach led most of the first before an electrical glitch knocked him out. Suarez won the race with Kaiser on the podium in both races. In Toronto, I'm looking for Rosenqvist to return with a bang, challenging for the win and podiums in both races along with Veach. The American has been red hot since a poor month of May and has dragged himself back into championship contention. He has an alright record at Toronto with a best of 2nd in Pro Mazda in 2012 and 5th in Indy Lights in 2014, but with his form he could pick it this time around. Stopping him could be Jones, who got a 5th and 3rd last year, Kaiser, who got a 3rd in the first race last year, and Uratala. I'm not sure what to expect from Stoneman, who's as known for his borderline defending as his pace this season, but a couple of top 5s has to be his minimum aim. Along with Morales, other drivers to challenge up there could be Andretti's Shelby Blackstock, who has 4 top 5 finishes this season and got 4th and 6th here in 2015. His rival for 7th in the championship, Andre Negrão, who was a top 5 battler in St. Pete, and Ron Pedrohita, who's looking good at Pelfrey despite only getting a best of 7th this year and got 4th here last season. The field contains 3 Canadian drivers, with Junkers' Zachary Cayman de Mello the best bet to salvage something for the home support. The 18-year-old has looked more at home in Indy Lights recently and was lucky in St. Pete to not get better results. Andretti's Dalton Kinnett and Grist should be in the hunt for top 10s, though. The Pro Mazda Championship closed up in Road America with hometown kid Alan Tellez winning both races. So the question is, can he continue turning up the heat on his teammate Pato O'Ward this weekend? Possibly. They were even in St. Pete at the beginning of the season, sharing a win each. Therefore I'm thinking it will be painted Pelfrey again this weekend, with O'Ward and Tellez sharing the victories. Behind them, the battle looks incredibly close. Junkers' Will Owen got 3rd in both races in Road America, and he would be the favourite to get those positions again in Toronto. However, Nico Jamin is only 9 points behind him in the standings in the battle for 3rd, and the Frenchman has come off his first podium in Pro Mazda after a great run to 2nd in the second race last time out. That's why I'm tempted to go for the Cape Motorsports Rain Taylor Racing driver to get on the podium again. Plus last year he took 2nd, then won the first race of his run of 6 wins to end the season as he raced to the US F2000 title. He's also joined by a new teammate this weekend. Jay Edison left before Road America, and in comes former JDC Motorsports driver Jorge Savalos. He returns to a race seat after competing in St. Pete and Barber earlier this year with a best finish of 7th in the first race in St. Pete. A top 5 would be a great, if somewhat unlikely result for him. Out of the other 3 main class drivers, Lucas's Nicolas Dapero had his best weekend of the year in Road America with a brilliant 2nd, then 5th. Keeping up his good run with more top 5s would be ideal ahead of his teammate Jake Parsons. The Australian got his first front row starts in Road America but had terrible races with no pace. Getting a top 5 on the board would be a result. Finally, TJ Fisher got 5th and 6th in his debut weekend with Pelfrey after his promotion from USF 2000. More of the same in Toronto as he gets used to the series won't be a bad weekend. Bobby Abirde is the only national class entry of JDC Motorsports. Good luck, man. It looks like you will need it with that competition.
Finally, the USF 2000 title race is as close as it can be between Anthony Martin and Parker Thompson as they are level on points heading to Thompson's home round. But who will be leaving Canada on top between the K Motorsports with Wayne Taylor racing pair?
It would be nice to see the Canadian come out on top in his country, but the Australian has the momentum, having closed the gap since Barber with 4 wins in 5 races, including the last 3 around the Lucas Oil Raceway and Road America. However, the only other visit to a street circuit this year were the opening rounds in St. Pete, won by Pabst racing pair Jordan Lloyd and Lou Van Loo. It's been all Thompson and Martin since then. Therefore, I'm going with Thompson to stop the bleeding and the K Motorsports with Wayne Taylor racing duo to claim a win each. Last year, Martin got onto the podium in the first race and finished 4th in the other. Equaling his feat was fellow Aussie Luke Gavin with a 4th, then podium in the 2nd race. The J Motorsports driver was struggling for funds, but the 5th place man in the championship has managed to make the trip north of the border. Apart from him, Lloyd and the consistent Victor Franzoni are the main candidates to also be on the podium. But look out for Pelfrey youngster Robert McGuinness, who got a podium in his first USF 2000 race in St. Pete, and his former teammate, current Cape driver Jordan Kane, who got a podium in the 2nd race in St. Pete behind the Pabst pair. The Brit has been exciting to watch, being fast, but error prone, as highlighted with him getting a top 10 and a non-result in the 4 venues he's competed at. Don't expect that to change this weekend. Finally, there's sole red driver Dakota Dickerson, who looks like he's getting the hang of this USF 2000 business. I'm expecting some close racing and craziness on the tight confines of the street circuit like we had in St. Pete. Don't disappoint us, USF 2000.
Just like with IndyCar, let me know your Mazda Road to Indy predictions down below. Don't forget you can catch live time and scoring of all of the sessions in Toronto at racecontrol.indycar.com with video for the practices, qualifyings and races for Indy Lights, Pro Mazda and USF 2000 available there on YouTube and on the Road to Indy TV app. There will also be video of practicing qualifying for IndyCar. However, the race will be live on CNBC in America, a bit different. BT Sport here in the UK and other places on the World Wide Web. I'll be back with more Power Oversteer IndyCar. Stop the races so I can catch up. Okay? So, sign out for watching and I will see you next time.